Welcome to the Big Four Accounting Firms podcast, brought to you by big4accountingfirms.com and the Big Four Accounting Firms YouTube channel. Before we get started, just wanted to remind everybody to support us if you have a chance or if you can. Even $1 helps, and we have a link in the description to a website called Buy Me a Coffee. It's just a way to donate to us and support us. Again, any amount is helpful so that we can keep putting out content. And there's also other ways for you to support us in the show notes to this podcast or on YouTube in the description. Today, I wanted to talk about some more internal things versus news stories, because I talk a lot about news stories on the podcast, but a lot of times it's just, a lot of that has to do with advisory, and not necessarily other parts of the firm like accounting and tax. But today I wanted to talk about the internal workings of the Big Four accounting firms, because it's 2021 and there's still a lot of people that are leaving the Big Four accounting firms. And that's why the Big Four accounting firms are trying to pay out bonuses, are trying various things from, working from home. They're trying to poll their people about how they want to work from home and how much they want to work from the office. But at the end of the day, people are still leaving the Big Four accounting firms. People would only be doing this for a couple of reasons. First of all, they're going to be paid better at their new job, by and large. They're not going to leave a job. Most people aren't going to leave the job unless they're getting paid more, or they're getting equity or something like that. And so the Big Four accounting firms, you can make good money, but you have to get promoted. And the higher up you get promoted, the more you make. But if you look around, a lot of the places in the industry, especially if you're in a bigger city, you're going to make more money. And that goes for the US and that goes globally. But another thing I was thinking about too was the type of people that you see that stay at the Big Four accounting firms. It's a type of person. They can deal with anything. Because if you're in the Big Four accounting firm and you're a senior manager, director, managing director, these type of people basically could put blinders on any situations, because in order to stay in the Big Four accounting firms, you have to be okay with turnover. And what that means is that sometimes you're on an engagement, you're in the middle of busy season, and your whole staff leaves, your whole team leaves. If you're younger in the Big Four accounting firms, your associate, senior associate, sometimes your manager leaves, your senior manager leaves. And to a lot of people, that emotionally wrecks them, because think, if you're in the middle of an engagement, and a lot of these engagements, whether it be audit, tax, whatever, it doesn't matter, advisory, you have a deliverable to the client. Or, you have a lot of deliverables, and you have to keep track of a lot of things. Sometimes you lose track of things. Sometimes you get partial things. Because a lot of what the Big Four accounting firms is babysitting. You have to babysit specialists, whether it be M&A, some quantitative part of the firm, some valuation, some expert, and you need something. And you don't get it in time for the weekend. You have to wait another week. You miss deadlines. You expect things to go a certain way, then somebody quits. That's just the way it works in the Big Four accounting firms. There's a lot of turnover. And what a lot of turnover means is that you have to re-explain a lot of things. You have to teach people all the time. So, the Big Four accounting firms have changed over the years, but they still have not changed enough to where this doesn't happen. And I know a lot of people try to explain this away, but it's just different in the Big Four accounting firms versus other companies. It's going to be the same if you work for like a big law firm or a big consulting firm, just because it's the nature of the business. But it's the nature of working for these large companies that makes it this way, because these big companies, they don't allow it to, it's not really feasible for one person to maintain. You have to have large teams, and large teams come with a lot of responsibilities, a lot of admin, and so that's why the big four are the way they are. But another way, the reason the big four are the way they are is because of regulation and overregulation. So, I mean, it comes with being a CPA. There's own regulations with being a CPA or chartered accountant. On top of that, there's tons of regulations on top of the big four accounting firms. There's tons of compliance that you have to do, especially if you're in audit. There's even more on top of that. And it's just burdensome. And a lot of what your job is like what I said before, babysitting, admin, and just these menial tasks. And you can go a pretty long time in your career in the big four accounting firms without learning that much. You just become just basically an organizer. You organize your team, you organize the billing statement, you organize your admin, you organize other admins, you organize admin for the partners. And this is why people leave. They get tired of that. But on top of that, you have the people. I guess another thing I want to talk about is like the type of people that stay. And if you think you're going to stay, this is the type of person that you have to be. You have to be able to put up with anything. I mean, and it's not going to be the best things either. You're going to have to be able to put up with turnover, with working on engagements by yourself. And another thing to think about is if you're in the same group for a long period of time, you're going to have the same clients. You could potentially have the same clients. You'll get new clients as well, but the same clients will have the same admin, the same people, and you'll get tired of seeing the same thing over and over again. You'll get tired of asking the same questions. You get tired of being asked the same questions. We can look. You can sit there and complain, or you can be part of the change. And I think there's a lot of things that can be done to change the big four accounting firms. I think the big four accounting firms need to move away from the billable hour, need to move away from utilization. They need to figure out the path to that and focus more on just providing value to their clients. And I think that's kind of what they're moving with technology, but they're still using the billable hour. But I think personally, I think a lot of people need to focus on their own careers. They need to focus on like what their career looks like and taking ownership of your career. You need to focus on moving between groups, moving to industry. But if you are going to stay at the big four accounting firms and stay in one group, you just have to realize how taxing that is going to be mentally, unless it's a really fast growing group and you can move up really fast, because that's the alternative, is you move up fast and you don't have to play the waiting game, because waiting game in the big four accounting firms is very tough, and that's why a lot of people leave. But I think one of the things that, so I mean, I guess in conclusion, what I'm saying here is the big four accounting firm job is tough, and I do these type of podcasts every now and then where I talk about how tough it is, and I just do that to let the younger people know, but also to brainstorm on how to change things, because I think culture at the big four accounting firms needs to change. Not just culture, but the way they work. And we're seeing that around the world, whether you're young or you're a partner. I mean, they're facing more regulation, they're facing more scandals. And I think the culture needs to change tone of the top. But the way we're going to do that is by the next generation. And maybe that's through this podcast that we do that. And I think people need to start raising these concerns and pushing that, because it's not being pushed. And I think the accounting firms just let more regulation be pushed on them. They try and push back against it, but they don't do a good job. But they also need to change the way they work so that people are motivated and so that they can bring more value, but also make it a better job for the employees. So that's just my thoughts for today. I want to talk a little bit more about the job, the mentality that it takes to work the job, and then potentially ways to change it. And we'll be discussing more ways to change it on here. So make sure to subscribe to this podcast.